Charlottesville on this gorgeous fall day. The leaves are at their peak. The air is nice and crisp, so we all have a boost of new positive energy. We're so glad you're here. We welcome everyone in the sanctuary, everyone who's joining us online. My name is Peggy Ruth. I'll be your celebration assistant this morning, and I'm here with the wise and wonderful Reverend Don Lansky,
Morning.
our senior minister, and the multi-talented Blair Jones, our music director, with her praise singers. And we're going to have them open us up with song. This will wake you up. Wake up. When I get out of bed, I claim a blessing. I claim a blessing. I claim a blessing. Before I even lift my head, I claim a blessing. I claim a blessing. I claim a blessing.
Well, good morning, everybody, and good morning to everybody who's watching online, and welcome to this beautiful day. It is our tradition here at Unity to begin with prayer, so I invite us to close our eyes. And Patricia and I spoke to some good friends last night who live in Puerto Vallarta, just north of Puerto Vallarta. There's a Category 4 hurricane bearing down there today, so let's begin our prayer just for the people of Mexico, for all the people in the path of this hurricane as it cuts across Mexico, seeing them using their inner guidance and wisdom to move to high ground, to be safe. And wherever people are in the face of natural disasters, so many going on around the world these days, we can hold and affirm that each and every person has the wisdom and inner strength, courage to meet whatever challenges are before them, to overcome with the aid of Spirit, whatever their conception of God is, or higher power. And we know that in our own lives we can face the same challenges with personal situations, with loved ones that are in need of healing, perhaps ourselves who are in need of healing. Let us meet that with faith, with courage, and with strength. Shining the light of consciousness that we are endowed with by our Creator. That amazing ability that we have to go to a place of higher consciousness, higher vibration, by choice. We can choose where to put our attention or not to put our attention. What a great gift of freedom that we all have. So in our prayer time, we remember and invoke the presence of love. And we send forth love into our communities, into our nation as the elections are coming up, into our world, into the universe. And we say, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
And from this centered place, I invite you to affirm together our statement of faith. There is only one presence and one power
in the universe and in my life. God the good,
omnipotent. And now I invite you to stand if you choose and sing our welcome song, greet a neighbor. Please observe the red dot or the green dot.
I'm in the right place, in the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be.
Do we have any children here this morning? Sindri is at the back.
We do. Matt's here this morning.
Ready to head you over to Children's Church. So have a great morning, and we'll see you back here in just a little bit.
So we do have some opportunities for transformation. Our friend Reverend Paul McDeesey has organized a 2-night mini conference on the future of Christianity. You know, when you think about churches these days, numbers are dwindling interdenominationally. Children's programs, as you can see, are dwindling interdenominationally. More and more people are considering themselves to be spiritual but not religious. So what is the future of church? What is the future of Christianity? And if you're interested in that, Reverend Paula from Unity Chesapeake, Unity Renaissance, has put together this panel of, there's a Catholic priest, an Episcopal priest, an evangelical pastor, and a New Thought minister. They'll be talking together about what they think the future of church is. And it's $45. Half of that is going to come back to support this church, Unity of Charlottesville. And it's 2 nights, each night from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So if you are interested, there's a place on our website. You can sign up for it and register, but you need to do it soon, actually, probably by tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. And on November 4th, we're kind of reinvigorating spiritual cinema, at least this one time, for a showing of The Territory. This is about indigenous peoples of the Amazon who are struggling and fighting against deforestation of the Amazon. So it'll be a live stream, which means that you'll be given a link. That will come out in our weekly email this week. And you can just join the live stream at 7 o'clock, and then after that, we'll have a discussion on Zoom about the film. And no, it's not next week, 2 weeks from now, November 6th, Geshe Rangpo Lobsang Dyandek will be coming. He'll be speaking after church. He is the chief editor for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He edits all of the Dalai Lama's writings. So he's a very noted scholar. He does not speak English, so he'll be speaking through a translator. But he'll be here from 1 o'clock to 2:30, and that's a free lecture by him. He's traveling around to universities around the country. So hope to see you there.
And on Saturday, the 12th, Ginger Collier continues her book study group on Jesus Joins the Dialogue. That's on Zoom, and you can get all the information about that on our website.
And then we have a concert coming up with Kate Campbell. She's a very well-known in the folk circles, well-known folk singer and singer-songwriter. She'll be coming. We're doing that in partnership with the Singer-Songmaker Series, the Songmaker Series it's called. And it's Saturday, November 12th at 8 o'clock. And Kate will be with us on Sunday morning as well. So.
And remember to join us on Wednesdays for the prayer and share at 6:30. We have a strong group of people that have been meeting together for a long, long time now with many answers to prayer. So every Wednesday at 6:30, there's a Zoom link on the website. And the next opportunity for fellowship will be on November 6th after service. So plan on gathering together, catching up with people perhaps that you haven't talked with in a while. And if you'd like to have this more often, volunteer. We just need one person to help set up the coffee, and we can do this more than once a month.
And next Sunday is, or next Monday, I guess, is Halloween. So you're welcome if you choose and would like to. You can wear a costume to Unity if you would like to do that. We usually have a lot of fun with those, so just feel free to do that if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can.
Isn't it nice to be a free spirit here at Unity of Charlottesville? Okay, so from that spirit of joyfulness, let's affirm our mission statement. Unity of Charlottesville empowers everyone to express their unique divinity, making a positive difference in the world. And now we will have another song.
In your presence, that's where I am strong. In your presence, oh Lord, my God, in your presence, that's where I belong. Seeking your face, touching your grace. In the cleft of the rock, in your presence, O God, in your presence, that's where I am strong. In your presence, touching your grace. In the cleft of the rock, in your presence, oh God, in your presence, that's where I am strong. In your presence, oh Lord, my God, in your presence, that's where I belong. Seeking your face, touching your grace. In the cleft of the rock, I hear you, I see you. In your presence, oh God. In your presence, oh God. In your presence, oh God.
That was lovely. Thank you, guys. Well, three men were hiking in this wilderness area when they came across this huge, loud, violent, raging river. And they were praying about how to get across. The first man knelt down and he prayed to God. He said, "Dear God, give me the strength to get across this river." And so suddenly, poof, his arms grew huge, his legs grew huge, and he jumped into the river and he swam across. It took about 2 hours. The next guy knelt down, he prayed to God, he said, "Dear God, please give me the tools to cross this river." And so suddenly a rowboat appeared, and he jumped in the rowboat and he rowed across the river. It took about an hour or so. The third guy saw that these other guys were having such success with their prayers, so he knelt down and he prayed. He said, "Dear God, please give me the intelligence to get across this river." And poof, God turned him into a woman. But wait, there's more. She looked at the map, she walked a couple of 100 yards upstream, and she walked across the bridge. So you know the Unity movement was founded in prayer. We talk about prayer a lot here, and we teach different prayer techniques also. We have, there are sort of these preferred, Charles Fulmer had his 5-step prayer method, and there is a 3-step prayer method, and all these different techniques for prayer. But there's one thing that's sort of in common with them, that positive affirmative prayer in Unity is nothing to do at all about conquering God's reluctance to provide us with what we need or what we want. That rather it's about aligning our consciousness with the cosmic flow, raising our vibration, getting in tune with the infinite, centering ourselves in the wholeness of God by aligning ourselves to higher consciousness. And have you noticed that no matter what form of prayer we use, there are at least 4 possible outcomes. So the first outcome is yes. We get what we prayed for, right? We prayed for a job and we got it. We prayed for a relationship and someone came into our life. We prayed for more prosperity, more money, and it came to us. We prayed for healing for ourselves or for some other person, and we were healed. And kind of like the 3 guys who crossed the river, it doesn't always look like the way we thought it would look or in the form that we thought it would be in. The second form or response or outcome of prayer is not yet, right? Meaning that our prayers are seemingly unanswered so far. And this is kind of a tough spot to be in, I think. It's frustrating. Sometimes it's lonely. We sometimes have a crisis of faith. We question our faith. We might ask ourselves, am I praying correctly? Am I praying for the right thing? Is anybody out there listening or in here listening to the prayer? Why can't I hear or why can't I feel a response to it? Why don't I get the thing that I'm praying for? And so we're kind of smack dab in the mystery of the universe in our relationship to it. And what gets us through these times, I believe, is our faith, or a leap of faith, anyway. The Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore said that faith is like a bird singing to the dawn while still in the dark, which is a great image of how faith can occur in spite of things how things appear on the outside, and how we can believe something even though it hasn't happened yet. So not yet means whatever the divine plan, whatever divine purpose is occurring, it's occurring in the universe's time frame, not necessarily our own. And we had a wonderful example of that this week in our midweek prayer group. You know, we meet every Wednesday night. It's open to everybody. And this past week, there was an answered prayer, something that we had been holding in prayer for many, many, many months. And finally, it had a positive outcome for the person who was doing the prayer request and for the person that we were praying for. It just took as long as it took, right? And we continue to hold faith. We continue to hold that in prayer month after month, week after week. So the third outcome possible is another way. So you might take this to mean that God is saying no to your prayer request. But another way can also mean that you're just being redirected. So that happened to me the first time that I applied for the Unity Seminary. I didn't get in. The first time I applied, I sent off all my information, and they didn't call me back for an interview. They said that I needed more experience in a Unity church, see what all the different facets of ministry were about. And so that next year, in my local church, I volunteered for all sorts of things, to lots and lots of sacred service. I also got a substantial pay raise at my job. Most importantly, I met Patricia. I wouldn't have met her if I hadn't been redirected. And I entered seminary with the right class. That was the class that I was supposed to be with. So maybe winning the lottery isn't in our best interest or our highest good, although I struggle with that. I do. Maybe going through an illness or a health challenge is meant to teach us something, to reorient ourselves about our lifestyle, about our way of life. Maybe it's to teach others when someone's going through a health challenge. There's a story about Mother Teresa. Dan Rather did an interview with Mother Teresa when he was the anchor of CBS Morning News. This was in the 1980s sometime. And Dan Rather asked Mother Teresa, "What do you say to God when you pray?" And her simple answer was, "I don't say anything. I just listen." And then Dan Rather said, "Well, what does God say to you?" And she said, "Oh, he doesn't say anything either. He just listens." So we've learned in the past number of years that Mother Teresa had a crisis of faith for much of her life. She was chronically depressed much of her life, even when she was doing all this amazing work to help so many others in the world. But let's imagine for a moment that what she described to Dan Rather was the experience of being or resting in the presence of God. Being or resting in the presence of God, like the song that we just sang. Like two lovers or two best friends who are able to simply be in each other's presence without the need for words. It's praying beyond the point of feeling like you have to say something to fill in the silence. Kind of like just being heart to heart with the God of your being. And there's an old Chinese proverb that says, if a person be absolutely quiet, the heavenly heart will manifest itself. So there are times in relationship when we do need to say something. There are times when we do need to be heard. So in our prayers, sometimes we use our affirmations and denials. Sometimes we shout out in praise and thanksgiving. Sometimes we cry to God for help. We don't know what to do. Please show us the way. Sometimes we doubt or are even angry with God. Anyone ever been angry with God? So, like any relationship, when you love someone, or in this case, when you love something, it's not the conversations that you necessarily remember. It's the being together. Just being together, knowing that there's something between you in the silence that is more powerful than all the words in all the dictionaries in the world. Just in the silence. And it's a perfect peace that comes after everything's been said and after the realization that some things can never be said. So Paul in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, it says, make your requests to God, and then the peace that passes understanding shall keep your hearts and minds in the mind and the heart of the Christ. So the fourth possible outcome is that prayer itself is the outcome. Just praying, just the act of praying is the outcome itself. Just being in the silence, being in presence, being in connection, communion with the God of our understanding, that alone is the outcome, nothing more. Chuang-Tzu is an early Taoist master. He was the successor to Lao Tzu. He said the purpose of a fish trap is to catch fish, and when the fish are caught, the trap is forgotten. The purpose of a rabbit snare is to catch rabbits, and when the rabbits are caught, the trap is forgotten. The snare is forgotten. And the purpose of words is to convey ideas. When the ideas are grasped, the words are forgotten. Where can I find a man who has forgotten words? He is the one I would like to talk to. So I want to talk to you today about the value of silence and offer a practical technique that points us in the direction of silence. And it's a prayer technique called centering prayer. How many of you are familiar with centering prayer? So centering prayer was developed in the 1970s by 3 Trappist monks at St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts. And Father William Meninger, Basil Pennington, and Father Thomas Keating said that they rediscovered this technique or reclaimed this technique from the early desert fathers and mothers. These were the monastics who lived for the first few centuries in the desert after the death and resurrection of Jesus. And they said also from other Christian sources from the 14th through the 16th centuries that they got this technique. And the purpose and the goal of centering prayer is to be in conscious relationship with the God of our being, to experience or rest in the presence in what they call the interior silence. It's a lovely idea, the interior silence. We know that there are many ways to get to that interior silence. In Hinduism, each tradition, each system has its own techniques, many techniques perhaps, to get there. In Sikhism, in Judaism, in Islam, in Buddhism, in Christianity, silence is often referred to as this inner space. The song we just sang. The immensity inside, the cave of the heart, the oasis of quiet, the inner sanctuary, the interior castle, the sacred center where God dwells. All these different names for something that is completely unnameable. And it's certainly the cornerstone of all mystical traditions, and of course the central practice of Jesus, who oftentimes went off just to be alone and to pray. And so in the Upanishads, there's a passage where the student asks his teacher, what is the nature of Brahman? Brahman is the ultimate reality, the totality of all that is. Sir, said the student to the master, teach me the nature of Brahman. The master did not reply. And when the student asked a second and a third and then a fourth time, the master said, I teach you, but you do not listen. His name is silence. That's everything. So, centering prayer is a spiritual practice, a way to systematically withdraw from the world so that we can experience a deeper communion with ourselves and with the divine. And it's an innate capacity that's within each one of us at every stage of our life, right? We always have this capacity right from the beginning. So I want to show you the 5 simple steps to centering prayer, and then we'll actually practice it together. I'm going to talk about it first, so don't do it yet. I'll talk about it and then we'll do it. Okay? So step 1 is sitting comfortably with the eyes closed, relaxing and quieting yourself. And this is the important point, with the intention to consent to God's presence and action within. The intention to consent to God's presence and action within. Action means the movement of spirit within you, however you conceptualize that. Sitting comfortably means sitting as comfortably as you can, preferably with arms and legs uncrossed, with back straight, so as not to encourage sleep. But if you fall asleep in centering prayer, it's okay. Step 2 is to choose a sacred word as a symbol of your intention to consent. A symbol of your intention to consent to the presence and action of spirit within you, or God within you. And a sacred word is a 1 or 2 syllable word. Words like God or Jesus Christ or Holy Spirit or Hashem or source energy or universal spirit or whatever you think, goddess, mother, Mary, whatever comes to you as a sacred word. And also sacred words could be words like love, faith, guidance, wisdom, grace, things like that as well. So you choose a sacred word, and you do this before you begin the process. But you can also do it when your eyes are closed. You can just close your eyes and see if a sacred word comes to you. But once you've chosen the sacred word, we don't change it midstream in this particular practice. You can change it afterwards if you like, but we keep it the same word for the entire practice. And if you don't feel comfortable with a sacred word, or if a sacred word doesn't come to you, you can just choose your breath, just to become aware of your breath. And the same guidelines, whatever you use as a sacred word or the breath, the same guidelines, which I'll explain to you in a moment, will apply. So, and this is the technique basically, that you gently introduce the sacred word silently, inwardly, as gently as laying a feather on a piece of absorbent cotton. Now, doesn't that sound light and airy and effortless? Just a little feather floating down, landing on a piece of cotton. That's how gently you think this word. Step 4 is that whenever you become aware of anything, meaning feelings, thoughts, perceptions, sensations, images, associations, you simply ever so gently return to the sacred word. That's the main instruction, the key instruction actually. And in this practice, thoughts is an umbrella term for every possible perception that you could have when you're sitting, right? So thoughts means body sensations, sense perceptions, commentaries, images, memories, reflections, plans, spiritual experiences, basically anything or any mental activity or physical activity that you have is called a thought. And so in centering prayer, thoughts are inevitable, they're integral, and they're normal. And so we don't try to resist them or try to avoid them. You may have done a meditation or maybe still do a meditation where you try to abolish thoughts. That's not centering prayer. We just let them happen. The instruction is that when you're engaged with your thoughts, return ever so gently to your sacred word. So we're going to be having thoughts because it's natural to have thoughts. And when we become aware that we're not thinking the sacred word, we gently return to it ever so gently, like laying a feather on a piece of absorbent cotton. Very easily. Now, Father Keating identified 5 different kinds of thoughts that you could have during this practice. The first is the wool gathering of the imagination. These are the most obvious and superficial thoughts. So these are thoughts like, when is this going to be over? What am I going to have for lunch? My foot's asleep. Those are those kinds of thoughts. That's the wool gathering thought. The second kind of thought is thoughts with an emotional attraction to them. So these are the kinds of thoughts that are more engaging. They are more absorbing to the mind. And so they're so absorbing that sometimes we forget the sacred word. We forget that we're thinking it. But the simple instruction is the same. When we become aware we're not thinking the sacred word, we ever so gently return to it. The third kind of thought is insights and psychological breakthroughs. So we may find ourselves having some profound thoughts, some insights, or some intuitions, or some ideas, or some revelations. But for the purpose of centering prayer, even these are hindrances to the experience of a deeper feeling of interior silence. And even though they may be fascinating, the instruction is still the same, that when we're aware we're not thinking the sacred word, we ever so gently return to it. And the fourth kind of thought is thoughts of self-reflection. These are the thoughts about what's happening in the centering prayer itself. So you're in the prayer, centering prayer, and you start thinking, boy, I am so evolved. This is fabulous, Or if I get any deeper, I'll just be one with the universe. Or how can I make a note of this so that the next time I do centering prayer, I'll come to this same point and go even deeper. Those are kind of self-reflecting thoughts. But the instruction is the same. When we're aware we're not thinking the sacred word, we ever so gently return to it. And the fifth kind of thought is inner purification, interior purification. So the idea is that in this expanded consciousness, in the relaxation of centering prayer, deep-rooted tension in the form of thoughts can be experienced. Father Keating calls this God's school of psychotherapy, right? So it's possible that at deeper, quieter levels of thinking, you can still have some very strong emotional charges. You could be having thoughts of anger, feelings of unforgiveness, feelings of fear, or even feelings of joy and feelings of bliss. And the best way to handle these emotions, these thoughts, is the very same instruction. When you're aware you're not thinking your sacred word, you ever so gently return to it. And then they talk about a sixth experience, and that's called resting in God, resting in the interior silence. And the idea here is that as you experience more quietness and more silence, you may reach a place where words disappear altogether, where there are no thoughts. And this is often described as a suspension of conscious awareness. In this system, it's described as a suspension of conscious awareness. So the next thing that you might be aware of is, what was that experience? Where was I? There was no sacred word, and I wasn't thinking. So the experience of interior silence, or the experience of resting in God, is beyond thinking, beyond thoughts, beyond images, beyond emotion, beyond any concept of time or space. Some people have a very clear experience of that. Some people don't have a clear experience of it. Some people just experience the calm and the tranquility along with the thoughts that they're having. So in whatever form or degree that the interior silence is occurring, there's no right or wrong to it in centering prayer, because the most important thing is the intention and the consent to be in relationship with the God of our being. That is the basis of centering prayer, is the intention of consent. And the greatest stumbling block to the practice of centering prayer is our natural tendency to think that the goal is always to be at the deepest point of silence, and that our thoughts are obstacles. Which is why it's so important in this practice to know and to remember that thoughts are not only inevitable, but they're an integral part of the centering prayer process. And so it's absolutely fine to have thoughts. We don't resist them. We just remember that instruction that when we're aware we're not thinking the sacred word, we ever so gently return to it, like laying a feather on a piece of absorbent cotton. And so in this way, the process of prayer becomes the outcome itself, just doing that. The last step of centering prayer, step 5, is that we end with a period of silence. We remain with the eyes closed for a couple of minutes, because in that additional 2 minutes, we are enabled to bring the atmosphere of silence more into our activity when you leave here. So, are there any questions about centering prayer? Anybody have a question about it? Because we'll do this in a minute. We'll practice this together. First, Blair will do a song with us, and Rhonda, I think, and then we'll practice. Any questions? Okay. So, Blair, come on up.
It's the moment of the holy now, and the honest that is mine. This inner space contains all that I need. From deep within the invisible flows the living air I breathe. This inner space is flowing in my bones. It stirs my heart, it stirs my mind, and every prayer I've ever known. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace. This inner space is the ocean of your soul, and when you feel most broken, the truth is you are whole. This inner space connects us one to all, and though it would never hurt you, it can break down any wall. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace. This inner space invites us to renew. In all my endless choosing, I become the chosen to this inner space. It never knows a past. In a quiet place you can hear it, and it might just make you laugh. And I say, breathe. Now breathe. Just breathe this peace.
So if your eyes aren't already closed, I'll invite you just to sit comfortably and begin to relax as you listen to the words of this old Celtic prayer. I weave a silence onto my lips. I weave a silence into my mind. I weave a silence within my heart. I close my ears to distractions. I close my eyes to attractions. I close my heart to temptations. Calm me, O Lord, as you still the storm. Still me, O Lord. Keep me from harm. Let all tumult within me cease. Enfold me, Lord, in your peace. So sitting comfortably now with arms and legs uncrossed, back straight as is comfortable, not straining. I invite you to choose a sacred word as your symbol of intention to consent to God's presence and action within you. I'll give you a moment to choose that word. Does anyone not have a word? Raise your hand if you don't have a sacred word. Nothing came. So you have your sacred word. And you offer now your intention to consent to God's presence and action within you, however you conceptualize that. Not what someone told you to believe, not what someone taught you, not something you don't want to do, but something that is comfortable for you to consent to the presence within you. And now gently introduce this word, sacred word, inwardly, as gently as laying a feather on a piece of absorbent cotton. And as we do this practice now together in silence, whenever you are aware that you are not thinking your sacred word, the instruction is ever so gently return to it. And so you may lose it, it may come, it may go, you may have lots of thoughts, it doesn't matter. Just take your sacred word. When you're aware you're not thinking it, ever so gently return to it like laying a feather on a piece of cotton. And we'll do this now in a time of silence. So now as we prepare to end this time of centering prayer, just sit easily with the eyes closed for a couple of minutes before you open them. And when it feels comfortable, just gently and easily open your eyes.
Wow. Reverend Don, what a profound message this morning. Thank you. You know, going into the holidays, isn't this a wonderful opportunity to practice this centering prayer and help us get prepared for the hectic times ahead? So if we start now, we'll have it mastered. I invite you to try. This is the time in our service when we have the opportunity to give back to Unity of Charlottesville. But before I do the blessing for that, is there anyone that's here for the first time? If you'd be so bold to raise your hand. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here this morning. Reverend Don will be at the back of the sanctuary at the end of the service if you have any questions, and we have information in the narthex. We're so glad you're here. We hope you found something to take home with you today. And if there's anyone joining us online for the first time, we invite you to join us here at Unity of Charlottesville. Well, and this is a church where you can use your phone in church. One of the easiest ways to give is to text. The number is 844-636-0061. Just follow the prompts. Very easy way to give. And if you have brought an offering with you, we've got the butterfly net going around, and Diane will be happy to collect that. So let's affirm our offertory blessing together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Many pray along the way. They don't stop to wonder what the world is coming to. They let something higher reveal So the truth is telling me,
Sing of liberation.
for the ones who cannot be, they can take us higher, reveal the way to greater love.
Greater love. So we let it,
Wash over us,
we let it,
make us kinder,
let it,
lift us higher.
we let
We
it,
let it be.
we let it,
Early in the
we
morning,
let it,
hold us together.
let it,
Wash over us.
we let it,
We let it be. We let it. Still some cry along the way,
walking through the sadness.
for a world that needs to know love can take us higher, reveal the way to greater love. So the truth keeps telling me love's the only answer, and to all humanity we can stay inspired, reveal the way to greater love. Everybody, come on, sing it out.
So we let it,
Wash over us,
we let it,
make us kinder,
let it,
lift us higher. We let it be.
we let it,
Early in the morning,
let it,
hold us together.
let it,
Wash over us. We let it be. Come on, we let the love wash over us. We let it be. Joy. We let the joy wash over us. We let it be. Let's bring it down. Peace.
we let the peace watch over us. We let it be.
Now give it all you got for the love. We let the love wash over us. We let it
We have a few more announcements. The pastoral care team here at Unity of Charlottesville is available if you have any needs. Just call the church office and someone will respond to you.
And next week is Trick or Treat. I'm actually going to look at the story of Joseph in the Hebrew Bible as a Halloween story. That's pretty weird. So that'll be next week. So well, let's invite our Sandra. You guys want to come up? Yeah, come on up. Yeah, Matt's here.
Walking as the light of God. We are walking as the light of God. We are walking as the light of God. We are walking as the light of God.
We are walking, we are walking, we
Well, we had a really heavy day in kids' church today, and we read a little story about two frogs that got stuck in a pail of fresh cow's milk. And the outcome for these two little frogs was not the same. The one frog didn't make it, the other frog did. So we were talking about hope and how your thoughts become actions and which way you can go with those thoughts. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Matthew.
I think just hold the mic for him.
You want me to hold the mic for you? Okay, I'll hold this for you.
Oh no.
I'll hold this for you. Can you read it?
I need you to turn it.
Turn it around. So anyway, this is one of the lessons that came out of it.
Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford.
When I was little, my grandfather, who's back there today, would tell me these stories of his time in Siberia in the Russian work camps, and he never gave up hope, and that inspired me today. And I said, where there's life, there's hope, because I think that, he told me what he went through, and it was really bad, but he never gave up hope. And I mean, he went through countless hardships, and I really am inspired by my grandfather, and I'm proud of him.
Thank you, guys. So let's do our children's blessing. Together, children, Uniteens, YOUers, teachers, and parents, you are loved, special, and important. Thank you, guys. So we just want to thank everybody who helped out today. We have Maggie and Bob, and Stephen Tavares is up there in the sound booth now. Thank you, Stephen. We have Barbara Olin and Diane on the blessing team today. And of course, Blair, you want to introduce our musicians so everybody knows who they are?
Oh, yes, Blue O'Connell on the djembe. Jim Colson on the bass. Saxophone and of course Rhonda Cooley. Kevin. I know his name. Okay. Janice Gilmore and John Sankiewicz.
Yeah, wonderful. And of course, we had lovely help from Peggy Ruth this morning as our celebration assistant. Thank you. Come here. Come here. Now, this person, you're used to having her sing to us, right? She sings to us all the time, right? But you know what? Wednesday is her birthday. So can we stand and sing to her? Yes? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Blair. Happy birthday to you.
Beautiful. It's
On the road. Yeah, so let's remain standing. We'll do a prayer for protection. Can we have that on the slide? So there we go. So together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And wherever God is, all is well. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin We do have the healing helpers in this corner here, and Peggy Ruth will be available for prayer. Buddy's also here for prayer. Have a great day.
Hi. Wow. It's fun.